G'day guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today's video I'm going to do my gather round 5 tips and predictions. Now here's one of the best rounds of the AFL season where all the teams gather in Adelaide to play a whole round of football in Adelaide, and arguably one of the hardest rounds to tip as well, obviously with almost no home ground advantages, which being the only home ground advantages being pretty much if Adelaide and Port Adelaide are playing at the Adelaide Oval. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So to kick off the round 4, I tipped Collingwood to beat Carlton at the MCG to send up Carlton 0-4, and so they did. It was a very kind of a boring game, to be honest. Obviously, well, not really a boring game, but very low scoring and goals were hard to come by. I tipped them by 11 points and they ended up winning by 17, so not that bad of a tip, pretty good of a tip. Tipped Geelong to get over the Ds. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, the Ds are now 0-4 because of this, and they were just in horrible form, especially the Cats at the Cattery. Beating pretty much every team that comes there. Gold Coast tipped the Suns to get up against the Crows, and they did. Controversially, obviously, Isaac Rankin not getting paid for that mark that should have been paid. The AFL admitted to, but controversial game. But for my tipping sake, not really. Pretty happy with that actually. Tipped the Lions to get over the Tigers, and they did. I thought they'd beat them by more, but only 28 points. But pretty good. Pretty good fight shown from the one of the worst sides in the AFL, obviously in being Richmond, but I'll take a 28-point win for my Lions. Tipped Sydney to get over North. I did not expect it to be a big thumping like that, but it looks like the old Sydney could be back here. And North, obviously, I think they're starting to fall off now since they're really good start of the season, but who knows, we could see them kick back. Tipped the Giants over the Eagles. They absolutely thumped the Eagles. Pretty easy tip in the end there. Not much to say about that game. Jesse Hogan kicking 9 goals, which is good. Tipped the Power over the Saints, and I'm really not having too much faith in Port at the moment. I've tipped them a couple of times. They just haven't been able to get it done. They're just one of the most inconsistent sides in the AFL at the moment, and the Saints are on fire. They ended up getting the win by 17 points. They were just really good in those first couple quarters, and then the Power fought back a bit. But yeah, unfortunately didn't get the tip right. And then I tipped the Dogs in a bit of an upset at Optus. Didn't end up going my way, but it was pretty close. Good win from Fremantle. But yeah, only got 2 wrong for this round. So yeah, without further ado, to kick off the round, we've got the Adelaide Crows taking on the Cats at the Adelaide Oval. Now this game set up to be a very good clash. Obviously the Crows are in red hot form at the moment. Obviously getting their first loss of the season last week against the Gold Coast Suns, in which they really should have maybe not been. Should have not lost that game. Obviously, that mark that Isaac Rankin wasn't paid. It wasn't great, but obviously we can't guarantee that Isaac Rankin would have get the goal off that. So it probably would have been a draw. Most likely, probably would have been a draw if he probably missed that in the end, anyways. But yeah, the Crows obviously lost that game last week, and on the other hand, the Cats, obviously, they came off a good win against the Ds at GMHBA. A big response they needed, obviously losing their last 2 games, obviously against the Brisbane Lions and the Saints before that. But yeah, and this one is pretty good, but obviously pretty much the only home ground advantage game this round, obviously with all the teams playing in Adelaide. But yeah, I'm going to have to tip the Crows in this one. Obviously, they want to bounce back off that umpiring decision that cost them the game. And yeah, I just feel like they'll get a nice win over them. I'm going to tip the Crows by 18 points. Obviously, yeah, the whole team has just been really good. Red hot form, obviously. Riley Thilthorpe, he is currently leading in the Coleman. I'm pretty sure he's kicked 3+ every week, which is great for him and great for the Crows. Obviously, he's starting to become a big unit up in the forward line for the Crows. But yeah, I just feel the Crows will get up and be too strong for the Cats here, so I'm going to tip them by 18 points. On the Friday night, we've got a pretty big blockbuster game. We've got the Collingwood Football Club taking on the Sydney Swans at the Adelaide Oval. It is, not a home ground advantage game, which doesn't really matter in a sense for these 2 teams. Any team could pinch it, really. Obviously, Collingwood in great form at the moment. Only lost 1 game this season. That was against the Giants in opening round, and they've been so good ever since then. Obviously, beating the Blues last round in a pretty non-convincing affair. Obviously, it was just good pressure from both teams, and Pies ended up getting the win over the Blues in the end. So yeah, good on their hands. And for the Swans, on the other hand, big win against the Roos. Riley Bice was absolutely magnificent. Obviously, one of the new recruits for the Swans. Absolutely brilliant. The Swans getting a huge win over the Roos. And yeah, that'll definitely give them confidence heading into this game. Now, yeah, the Pies have a pretty good record at LA. Well, they usually come there and beat on the Adelaide team, so I feel like they can come into this, but I'm going to tip a little bit of an upset here. I'm going to go the Swans in a close one. I reckon it's going to be one of the closer games of the round. I'm going to tip the Swans to beat the Pies by 10 points. I feel like it'll just be a really good game. I feel like the Swans will want to get back on track and become what a unit force they were in 2024 and get their way up to the flag. So yeah, I'm going to tip the Swans. To kick off the Saturday games from Barossa Park in rural Adelaide, we've got North Melbourne taking on the Gold Coast Suns. Yeah, this one, it probably looks very one-sided considering what happened last week. Obviously, North Melbourne coming off a really bad loss to Sydney. They were just outclassed. They just didn't look great all night. And yeah, the Swans absolutely toppled them. And yeah, they were competitive in maybe the first half, but from there it was just Sydney. And on the other hand, Gold Coast coming off a very controversial win against the Crows, obviously by the point there, but they'll be happy with that nonetheless of the call whether Isaac Rankin should have got that mark or not. But yeah, it was well played either way. Gold Coast obviously looking one of the biggest threats for finals this year. I reckon honestly it could be their year, and I reckon they could get into the finals, and maybe at the rate they're going in a top 4 spot. But yeah, they've just been absolutely brilliant, the Suns, and they should continue their brilliance in this. Obviously, they've won every single away game this year so far, which is those 2 games, the West Coast game where they thumped the Eagles, and they thumped the D's at the MCG. But yeah, I think that should just come in and just show the competition what they're made of and continue this really good form. I think the Suns will get up by 64 points here. I reckon the Roos will bounce back, but I feel like obviously I'm not sure about much better, but a really good side and a fiery hot form. So yeah, I reckon the Suns, they deserve it a lot, so I reckon the Suns will come in and beat the Roos here. Next up at the Adelaide Oval, we've got the Carlton Football Club taking on the West Coast Eagles. Now this one, Blues are 0-4, they're in absolute shambles, and as much as I don't want to tip them, I kind of have to. I've got to be safe. They should win this. But yeah, they've just been horrible. They've lost all of their games so far this season, obviously being 0-4, and they've just been one of the worst teams, and they could continue that trend. Obviously, they've got an easier fixture this week, obviously, against West Coast, but unfortunately for them, they don't have a great record at the Adelaide Oval. Neither do West Coast in particular. They haven't been good since like 2021, so they've pretty much lost a lot of games there. But the Blues should win here. I'm going to tip them by 20 points. I don't think it'll be very convincing at all, but yeah, West Coast obviously are much worse than Carlton, and I feel like they could notch up a win. They were playing some pretty good footy a couple of weeks ago against the Lions at the Gabba, which did kind of shock the competition a bit, but I feel like they can play some competitive football, the Eagles, but in the end, the Blues should get up. I swear, if they manage to lose to West Coast, I'm never tipping them again, I swear. If they go 0-5, it'll be the most ridiculous thing ever. It'll be funny, but I think the Blues should just get up here. Next up at Norwood Oval, on the Saturday twilight fixture, we've got the Western Bulldogs taking on my Brisbane Lions at Norwood Oval, as I said just before. Now this one, set up as a great clash, obviously. Although I said there's not really any home ground advantages, the Lions have played a game here before last year against the Brews, and yeah, neither of the Bulldogs have ever played here before, which could give Brisbane a bit of an advantage here, but I reckon it's a pretty 50-50 game, obviously. The Western Bulldogs, they're very injury depleted at the moment, obviously, with no Adam Treloar, Marcus Montepelli, and Jamara Ugle-Hagan. They've been playing good football, but like, they've been struggling a lot with those injuries out, which is expected. And yeah, on the other hand, the Lions are currently sitting 4-0. They're honestly one of the best, if not the best team in the competition at the moment. Unfortunately, just haven't been able to get some of these big capitalisation wins on worse teams. Obviously, they have a bit of an easier fixture to start the year. Obviously, versing West Coast and Richmond, those two below par teams. Obviously, only beating West Coast by 19 points, and where the Eagles led by 30 plus at just before half time or quarter time, whatever it was, can't really remember. But yeah, they should have beaten Richmond by a lot more last week, but I'll still take a 28-point win heading into that, and I feel like they could definitely change up a bit of stuff before this game. They're going to have to play a much more better better brand of footy in, obviously. So yeah, this is a very good match. It's a toss-up, but I feel like the Lions, they're in really good form at the moment. I'm going to tip the Lions in a closer one. I'm going to tip the Lions to win by 15 points, obviously. Just injury-depleted Bulldogs. I can see a world where they do beat the Lions here, but I'm just going to tip the Lions as a safer tip, obviously. They've played a game at Norwood before. I just feel the Lions will continue their form and get a good win on the board in a gather round. Finish off the Saturday games at 7:30 something PM time slot. We've got the D's taking on the Bombers at the Adelaide Oval. Yeah, not a really pretty matchup. Obviously, the D's playing horrible football. They're currently 0-4, and they're looking like one of the worst sides in the comp. Essendon have been going great as well, but they've got a couple of decent wins, I think. Oh no, they've only got one win this season. They had a bye last week, which could give the D's a bit of a chance. But obviously, these two teams have played here before at the Adelaide Oval against each other, and Essendon got a pretty comfortable win. I feel like the Bombers will get up here and send the D's into more shambles, but I reckon it's going to be a much closer game. Obviously, both sides pretty bad at the moment, but I feel like the Bombers will get up pretty easily here. I think the Bombers will get it done by 21 points in a decent game of footy, but yeah, I just can't really see the D's being that great, honestly. They don't know where I don't know where their football club is at right now, and they're just playing some really bad football, but I don't think it's their week this week. I reckon they just need a simpler team at their home ground to maybe notch up their first win, but I can see the D's maybe getting a good little win over the Bombers here, but I feel like the Bombers should just get it done. I'm going to tip the Bombers as a safe tip, but yeah, I think the Bombers will get it done. Start off the Sunday games at Barossa Park again. We've got the Richmond Tigers taking on Fremantle at Barossa Park. This game isn't looking very good for the Tigers, obviously. Both teams have never played here before, but Freo should get it done. I'm going to tip them. But yeah, Richmond obviously playing some pretty competitive footy against the reigning premiers last week at the G. Unfortunately, couldn't get the job done, obviously. But they got decently close. They crawled back a 50+ point margin down to a 28 point margin. And if I was a Tigers supporter, I'd definitely be taking that. That's a mini win for the Richmond Football Club. Obviously, a very young team in their rebuilding stage, and can definitely see a bright future ahead of the Tigers. But at the moment, they are not a very good side. And Fremantle, on the other hand, beating the Dogs up at Optus Stadium, and yeah, they're a rising side. I feel like their start of the season wasn't really great, but I can see the Dockers coming out and becoming one of the top teams this year again. But yeah, I'm going to tip the Dockers in this one. I'm going to tip them by 69 points. I just feel like, yeah, Tigers are competitive, but I feel like obviously Fremantle, they seem more organised side than they just seem more an organised side and stuff, and I feel like they should just get a pretty convincing win over the Tigers here. Obviously a safe tip, so I'm going to be tipping the Dockers. Next up on the Sunday twilight time slot, we've got St Kilda taking on GWS at Norwood Oval. Now, looking back, this game wasn't looking like a very good clash, but now it is. Obviously St Kilda in pretty good form at the moment. They're currently sitting 7th on the ladder, and they could definitely beat the Giants here. And the Giants obviously great response last week, especially after losing to the Hawks the week prior against the Eagles. Against the Hawks, but they thumped the Eagles and they got a really good percentage boosting win, and they're one of the top teams on the table. So obviously, yeah. Now this game is looking like a pretty good matchup. Yeah, both teams in great form. I can see St Kilda getting up here, but they've played in some pretty good games. But I feel like the Giants should just get up. I reckon I'm tipping them in a close one here. They're always playing close ones here in Gather Round. So I'm going to tip the Giants to win by 7 points. Yeah, I just feel like the Giants, obviously in the form they're in at the moment, I think they might be too strong for a very good St Kilda side. But I've got to come away from home. Again, obviously they beat Port Adelaide last week in that game. But obviously staying in Adelaide, which they could give an advantage. But I don't know really. But I'm going to tip the Giants, maybe in a safer tip. But it's really 50-50. So I could definitely see the Saints winning it, but I'm going to tip the Giants. To close out Gather Round, a very good blockbuster, arguably one of the games of the round. We've got Port Adelaide taking on Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval, 7:20 PM. Yeah, great game on our hands here. Obviously, Hawthorn off the bye at the moment, and a semi-final rematch, obviously, from last year where the Power got up. Yeah, Port Adelaide are in a pretty shaky form at the moment. I don't really know if they're going to win this game. And Hawthorn obviously off the bye, which would give Port more of a chance, but I feel like the Hawks just get it done in a closer one here. Obviously, they're in great form. They play some pretty good footy pretty much anywhere they go, so I can definitely see them getting a nice convincing win here. But yeah, I'm going to go safe. I'm going to tip the Hawks to win it by 14 points. I just reckon then get up over a Port Adelaide side and take revenge for the last 2 times they versed each other. Obviously, one of the first times, they choked a big lead, Hawthorn did, and they got Darcy Byrne-Jones kicked that last-minute goal, or last-second goal, I should say. And obviously in the semi-final, where Hawthorn came very close and almost got into the prelims, but I feel like they should just get a nice little win here and stay top of the table here. So yeah, I'm gonna tip the Hawks. Anyway guys, that was the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, turn the notification bells on so you know every time I upload. But yeah, I hope your tips go well this year, this week rather, and I hope your team wins, and yeah. Anyway guys, that was the video. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.